Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi from GoMakeThings.com. Last week, I published a video about how I'm building a UI library for people who love HTML. I'm going to drop a link to that somewhere above. And a big part of my approach there is HTML first that then gets progressively enhanced when JavaScript is available. And I got a lot of excited responses and comments about it, but also a noteworthy handful of folks saying something along the lines of, people should not be prioritizing no JavaScript users. No one turns off JavaScript. And today, I wanted to talk about why that's wrong and why you should care about the Node.js experience. Today's video is brought to you by this week's sponsor, ConfigCat. ConfigCat is a cross-platform launch darkly alternative that's easy to learn and quick to set up. With ConfigCat, you can manage feature flags without redeploying your code. I'll be talking about them a bit more later, but you can learn more yourself at configcat.com/gomakethings.com. Sign up for their forever free plan or get 25% off any paid plan with the code GO25. I'm going to drop a link to them down in the description as well if you want to go check them out. So people actually do disable JavaScript. I know it's currently 2025 and most people don't, but there are actually people who do disable JavaScript for a whole variety of really valid and important reasons. I actually have an example here of why. So I have the CNN website pulled up with an article on some frozen treats for the summer for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm just going to reload the page for a second. You can see the very first thing I'm greeted with is a giant ad. Ironically, a giant ad for an ad blocker. Takes up about 50%, maybe 30% of the page, takes up a lot of the page, right? So all I really see right now is the headline. As I scroll, I am bombarded with more garbage over on the sides, right? And the thing with all of these is they are just chock full of trackers and spyware, right? My favorite part is, so if you let this sit for a minute, you'll get another pop-up asking you, are you sure you want to go sign up for our newsletter, right? So it's just so much invasive stuff here, right? And so the thing with this is you might disable JavaScript to stop all of this stuff from showing up. Maybe you're on a data restricted plan. Maybe you browse primarily on a mobile device. You don't have a lot of data on your plan, and you want to prevent a lot of this garbage from downloading because this garbage is it's a lot. Like, so if we jump over to the network tab, let me reload this page for a second. I am at 17 megabytes and counting. We're still going. And most of this is JavaScript related stuff. So spyware, right? 17 megabytes, right? And some of this got blocked, right? Like this script got blocked here. Actually, if I were to, I've got no blocking on trackers. So for some reason, this just failed for some reason, right? But 17 megabytes. Now, let's do a no JavaScript comparison. So let's block JavaScript and we will reload this page. I guess I need to pull it up in a new tab and reload. Yeah, so the no JavaScript version, still huge. 3.6 megabytes is kind of a lot, but you compare that to, oh my gosh, we ended up at 20, because I'm preserving the log. Okay, so we ended up at like 17 megabytes with JavaScript and 3.6 without. So massive difference. I'm bad at math. Let's do 17 divided by 3.6. So like almost 5 times as much data with JavaScript turned on as with it turned off. So just right off the bat, if you want to conserve your data, you want to avoid all the spyware stuff, turning off JavaScript, actually a valid choice. I know not a lot of folks do it. It's a minority of users, but there are valid reasons for doing it. Lots of folks do it. Another concern here is that most crawlers don't use JavaScript all the time. So if you're building a website that you actually want people to find, building a no JavaScript version of that is actually kind of an important part of the process. A lot of search engines today do run JavaScript, but they don't do it nearly as often as when they crawl sites without it. So they might do it every few weeks, once a month, whereas they're out there every day indexing sites that without JavaScript running. And so if your priority is to get your stuff seen and have it show up in search engines. Another good reason to have some sort of no JavaScript version that folks can access. The other thing here is that, well, most folks don't purposely turn off JavaScript, even though there are valid reasons for doing it. A lot of times JavaScript is off for reasons that are completely out of the user's control. A lot of users encounter Node.js versions of your site. So just for example, CDNs fail. A few years back, Bad Deploy took down Cloudflare, a massive CDN provider used by 10% of Fortune 1000 companies alone. No CDN, no JavaScript. You could also say that that applies to, say, your HTML and CSS, but not always. Sometimes it's just certain pieces of your stack. And if JavaScript is required, users get nothing. One of the other things that happens, firewalls and ad blockers. So I browse with an ad blocker for reasons we just saw. Sometimes it flags what would be valid JavaScript as malicious, and I see nothing. I've also worked at companies that have really aggressive security protocols. And at those companies, a lot of times JavaScript gets blocked kind of preemptively just because it might run some malicious code. Files timeout, right? You have absurdly large JavaScript files. If someone's on a slower connection, that file might not ever actually make it. Ian Feather, an engineer at BuzzFeed, shared at a conference a few years back that about 1% of all requests for JavaScript on BuzzFeed fail. That's 13 million requests a month. And it usually is not because users have turned it off. It just fails to download for a variety of reasons. Could be that people are browsing on mobile devices while they're commuting. They go through tunnels and they lose the internet. Maybe your code has a bug. Nobody sets out to write code with bugs, but it does occasionally happen. And when it does, JavaScript is the most fragile part of the stack, right? So if you fat thumb your keyboard and type DVI instead of div, the browser is going to ignore what you wrote. It's going to treat it like a span and it's going to move on. If you mistype a CSS property, for example, writing BG color instead of background color, the browser just ignores the property and moves on. But let's say you misspell the name of a variable in your JavaScript, writing num, N-U-M, as NMU, like I've done here. The JavaScript file would throw an error and just stop. The whole thing just stops working. HTML and CSS fail gracefully, but JavaScript does not. The other, just to kind of put like a real fine point on this, let's actually take a look at what it looks like when JavaScript is off and you don't have a backup. So here's Netflix, right? Now, admittedly, you need JavaScript on to stream video to watch on Netflix for the most part. But maybe you get to the sign-in page and the JavaScript didn't download, right? So this could be a form that sends back to a server, but instead it's JavaScript powered. So if I turn off JavaScript and I load this page, I get absolutely nothing. Let's turn JavaScript back on for a second, but let's throttle my connection. So maybe I'm on a slow connection. I'm on 4G, right? So we can count down the amount of time this is taking, right? Seconds. I'm just staring at a blank white screen. Finally, something shows up, but that took a really long time, right? This is maybe a more extreme example. Sometimes your UI just looks funky. I don't mean to pick on the folks at Web Awesome and Font Awesome. They're building really cool stuff. Their site actually does function without JavaScript, but it looks kind of janky. So if I turn off JavaScript and reload this page, it takes a lot longer to load. And then when it does, I've got all this weird UI that just doesn't do anything. It looks kind of weird. And again, this could not be purposeful. This could be because something just failed somewhere along the line. So I can still move around, but it just looks a little awkward, right? And it would be nice if there was a version of this that looked good, that looked even better once JavaScript came on. There's a really great website. Everyone has JavaScript, right? I will drop a link down to that in the description. But it just outlines all of the various instances where your user either doesn't have JavaScript or doesn't have JavaScript yet. And it's just a really nice flowchart that concludes with the fact that progressive enhancement is good, actually. If you want to learn more about how to build this way, I also recommend the free book Resilient Web Design by Jeremy Keith. This heavily shaped how I build for the web. I saw Jeremy give an awesome talk on this early in my web development career. And honestly, not much has changed since then. If anything, the need for this has only gotten stronger. But it's a fantastic read on principles for building in a way that is resilient and where the thing you build will work even when things that you don't expect to happen because the browser is a very unpredictable environment. Today's video was brought to you by ConfigCat, the feature flag service that helps you release features faster and with less risk. ConfigCat makes it super easy to manage feature flags in your code. With open source SDKs for over 19 platforms, including JavaScript, Python, Ruby, Java, and even Rust, you can toggle features on or off remotely without redeploying your code. Use feature flags for gradual rollouts, A/B testing, canary releases, or instant rollbacks, all from a friendly visual dashboard. Try ConfigCat's Forever Free plan or get 25% off any paid plan with the code GO25. You can learn more at configcat.com/go-make-things and start shipping smarter today. And I'll make sure there's a link for that down in the description for you. So my point with this whole video, just to kind of wrap this all up and tie everything together, is that a lot of people browsing your site will at least temporarily have a no JavaScript experience without intentionally doing so. You can build your site in a way that ensures they still have a good experience anyways, or you can choose to be user hostile and punish them. And if you choose the latter, you may find that you have fewer and fewer of them over time. That's it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, leave a comment and tell me how wrong I am. If you liked it, comments are great there too. And I will see you next time. Cheers.